True.
Who can
All right,
mentor Brent?
That's a great lead-in for episode 63 of Dads and Ed. We apologize for those of you that are watching live. We're a little bit late because we're having a conversation, and time flies when you're trying to work through Brent's problems. No, I'm just kidding. We'll get into Brent's discussion here in just a little bit. But we're back. It is cold. It is dang cold. You can see Devin and I are in our snow day outfits. We are stoked to be lazy tonight because neither one of us have school tomorrow because apparently it's icy, or it will be.
That's what I hear.
That's all that matters. We are excited tonight. We're going to be joined by Randy Watson, who is the Commissioner of Education for the whole state of Kansas, the whole dang state.
I don't even know what that means. So
I don't. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever talked to somebody this important.
That's how we kick off
Greg Doyle
in 2017.
That's right. Yeah, go big or go home. Right.
Right.
We're not easing ourselves into this one. We're going big right off. We're swinging for the fences in the first show of 2017. So
that's right.
Excited. He is actually doing Kansas Ed Chat right now as we're doing this live. So he's wrapping that up, hanging out with the peeps, which is awesome. We'll talk to him about that here about 9 o'clock. So we're gonna get all of our other stuff done, and then we'll have him, and we'll close it out with him. So. Josh Allen, 4 wonderful kids, had a great time today hanging out with them. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And a beautiful wife. And pleased to be joined, as always, by Devin. You want to go first?
Sure. Devin Schoening, the K-12 Instructional Technology Program lead in Council Bluffs, Iowa, for Council Bluffs Schools. My 2 daughters, Grace and Claire, 12 and 10, coming up on birthdays for both of them here in the next month and a half or so. And yeah, my wife Erin, who's also in education. So that's us. And yeah, we're just kind of the girls are out. They're sleeping on the couch tonight, watching a movie, having some popcorn. No school again tomorrow.
So Devin, you'll have a teenager then coming up?
I will have a teenager come February 26th. That's correct.
That's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
It is a big deal. Congrats.
Fun fact, that's my dad's birthday too.
Well, there you go.
Nice.
That's the way we planned that.
Born that day.
Yeah,
I figured you did.
Well, I'm Brent
January, December, November, October.
That's right.
Go ahead, Jeff.
All right. Brent Callett here from Independence, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri area. Work for the district in Independence as Director of Technology. My wife, Josie, and 5 kids ranging from 10 to almost 2. He's a February birthday, as a matter of fact, so it's a big day coming up for him as well. And yeah, just living the dream. We had a nice day on Friday, got out a little early on Friday, and then really got nothing. And the poor Chiefs lost this weekend too. So it's been a rough weekend for the Kansas City folks.
That's all the Midwest iced moved up here yesterday. It iced last night and rained most of the day, and it's amazing how much difference a couple degrees makes, because at 32 degrees it freezes, but at 5 o'clock tonight it was 37 and the roads were fine. So crazy how close that is. All right, we're going to start off with some big news right away. Not only are we having the Commissioner of Education, we have a major announcement to do. We've been doing some work on our website, and not only are we we're not shifting away from Podbean. You can always check us out at dadsined.podbean.com. But we got challenged a little bit to maybe do a little bit of writing, and maybe bring in some of our former guests or upcoming guests, and maybe get some of the writing that they're doing. So we have been behind the scenes working on dadsined.com. You can go there. It will take you over to a WordPress page that has some blog ideas or some blog posts that we've written, and generally I've cross-posted from our other blogs. You can see links to all of our podcasts. You can listen to them right there. You can learn more about us. I did notice I didn't add this on there, but I need to put in links to the iTunes and Google Play Store. But that is it's a work in progress. There's already a few things I wish we'd done a little bit differently, but we'll deal with that later. So
That's right.
we're pretty excited, and for the first time ever, you can actually watch tonight's live show on dadsined.com.
Nice.
How about that?
It's just-
You can. I'm there right now. You can actually do it.
Well, yeah, I know. I wasn't going to tell you guys all the surprises because I thought of that this afternoon. Hadn't had a chance to tell
Well,
you.
I might just go watch the show.
So anyway,
Seems like it'd be pretty great.
yeah, sounds like a good one.
It does.
So we're excited to kind of branch out a little bit and show do a little bit more writing. We had AJ Giuliani on back in December and talked a little bit about writing. I was doing really good, guys. I was doing really good with blogging, shooting for 150 words, and I did awesome for 2 weeks. And I've had some good ideas, but I haven't picked it back up. I need to get back on that. There is one actually on dadsined.com that is from that blog, so you can check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Brent, I think you put one up there just about the origin of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Recap of the show. Dad's in it 3 years later. So
Yeah. I got to do some more. I don't know. So I've been blogging pretty well on my blog. I'm trying to do once a week. And so I've been doing pretty well with that. I just don't know if they necessarily if we would post them on Dad's and Ed or not too. I don't know. And kind of versus me digging, maybe I want to try to dig into some other things there, but I am proud of so far where I'm at and hoping I can kind of keep that pace throughout this season.
So if you have ideas for the show, let us know, or for the website. If there's things that we overlooked, be sure to let us know, because we just kind of think it's a different way to reach everyone. So you can still connect with the show by just tweeting us at dadsined. Use the hashtag dadsined. You can still email us if you want. Check out our website, dadsined.com. Subscribe in iTunes, Google Play. Just search Dads and Ed, or check out the EduPodcast Network at edupodcastnetwork.com. You can find a link to all of our stuff, as well as some other great podcasts there. All right. Do you guys have a water cooler topic? We were so busy talking about it. I do, unless you had.
No, go ahead.
Go for it.
So we were talking before the show. We'll talk about mentoring a little bit. So with mentoring, one of the things that we were talking about is as we move in our jobs, what type of people do you look for as a mentor? For me, when I started doing this instructional technology thing, there was really no one else. That was pre-Twitter. PT, I don't know if that's caught on yet, if that's cool, like AD, BC type thing, but pre-Twitter. And so there wasn't really anyone that I knew to go reach out to. There was, you have your middle-level educational service units or education agencies, but being part of a social network has opened us up to a lot more people and a lot bigger reach of other ideas. So one of the things that I've really enjoyed is being able to get to know people and just see how they do stuff. And I'm not really good with the visioning of like leading a district. I am much more comfortable doing this, like the how-to. Like, this is how you can do it. Sitting with teachers, I'm much more comfortable and really enjoy that. So if I'm looking for a mentor, I would need to look for someone who has some of that visioning, to kind of learn from them. So as you guys, or Brent, as we know, you're working on your doctorate right now, and what are some things that you guys look for, or what makes a good mentor?
Yeah, we were kind of saying earlier how perhaps if somebody outside of your network, especially in the Twitter sphere, like I think back, Josh, when we first met, and even Devin, and I mean, obviously, I have a great deal of respect for both of you in the realm of just being able to bounce ideas off of both of you, but maybe doing someone outside of kind of that friend zone of sorts that we've developed, right? And that our families have gotten together, but just someone that you can kind of say, hey, here are some things I'm dealing with that would have kind of a completely non-biased view on you, because maybe you weren't as connected to them, but they could provide that guidance, or at least an opinion that you could, mull over, to think about maybe a decision you're looking at, or whatever those things might be, right? And our guest, I was mentioning before show, he and I talked about this in an interview I did with him for one of my classes, in fact, recently, and he was the first person that kind of hit me with it. And I said to myself, like, who are my mentors? Like, who are those people for me that kind of I can reach out to or be challenged, or just be able to say, hey, here's where I'm at. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think that's a weird space. When you talk about it, you really don't want that to be, Josh mentioned the term echo chamber before we came on. You don't necessarily want to be somebody who you completely align with. You don't want it to be somebody who you necessarily are really close friends with, maybe. Mm-hmm. But like, how do you then find people in that interim space? It's like, how do you find somebody who is in that interim space who you know well enough, who would be willing to give you feedback and take time out to help you, but you don't know well enough that they might not be completely, forthcoming or honest, so they don't hurt your feelings or whatever the case may be. So I think that's a weird space, because it's hard to find somebody maybe inside of your district to do that. Right. So I think that part's hard. That's where you're right. Social media does open us up to all these different people, but gosh, you end up building up and fostering relationships with people, and they might not end up being the ones that, like we talked about earlier, that you would want to be as a critical friend, right? Or a mentor of some kind.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that is the difference. I think that social media opens us up to those people, but I still think it's just so important to be able to reach out to them and have more than 140 character conversation. And, right. It takes care of the introduction and lets you peek into who they are. But, I think about like a Craig Badura or a Mickey Mueller. Brent, you mentioned that you and I had met online, and then we, started meeting face to face. And there's things, just taking Mickey and Craig, for example, because they're not here to defend themselves. There's things that I take away from them that I really like and I would definitely do, but I also take what they do and compare it to what I do, and allow me to reflect on what I think I did right or what I think I did wrong. Mm-hmm. Just as another example of how you do something. And sometimes it reevaluates, or not reevaluates, whatever. God, I hate the English. Yeah, reaffirms. There you go. Thanks. Okay. English is tough. Sometimes it reaffirms that I believe that was the best way to do whatever. Sometimes it reaffirms that was horrible, and I really need to step it up next time.
Well, I know that, there a couple of years ago, or I think 2 years ago now, Craig wrote that post about the 10 people who do my job better than me, or something like that, based on a comment that Bob Dylan made at the Fall NEDA conference a couple of years ago. And I do think that's true. I mean, I think I'm trying to find those people all the time as well. But it is, I think, just a weird space. I know we've talked about on here before, our Sports Vox radio group on Voxer. That ends up being a group for us. I know, Josh, for you too, a space where we can go and get some feedback, but it's just different. Like, I wouldn't consider any of the folks in there mentors, right? I mean, I consider almost all of them friends now. So I think it's a weird space, because that is a space that I know that I've used in the past to go on and get some feedback about doing something, or to get some, get a little bit of help in trying to kind of get my thinking right around something.
Yeah. I think the key thing is being able to find someone who's honest enough to give you a real answer,
right? Yeah,
and call you out when you need it, and you got to be willing to stand up like a big boy or big girl and take it.
Right.
You know. All right. Moving on to Dad Moment of the Week, and then we'll jump down to what's normally our closing. So today was actually a day off for me anyway, and a day off for my kids prior to the ice. But because of the ice storm, I didn't have to go present in York, which was too bad. York puts on a fantastic conference every Martin Luther King Day, and I always look forward to going out. Actually, George Kuros is going to be out there, who we've talked about previously. But so I got to hang out with the kids, and this morning my wife sat down with them and made a ice sighting list of things to do. So ice, it's ice, whatever, not exciting. It was my kids read it wrong, which always makes it funnier. I forget what they actually said, but it was pretty funny. So we had a fantastic day of making donuts, and I got to watch the kids do an obstacle course, and we actually watched Miracle tonight, which I don't know that I don't watch movies very much anyway, but I don't know that I had actually watched the whole thing. And still got jacked up when when Herb Brooks is talking to the team before they play Russia or the Soviet Union, and it was good end of the day. Looking forward to another one tomorrow. I think we're not sure if cinnamon rolls or waffles are on the morning agenda. We're going to do Pop-Tarts, but I totally ruined that this afternoon, so that's why I had to run to Hy-Vee this afternoon. So anyway, looking forward to another day off. I'm extremely busy at work, and I really want to get back, but there is nothing quite like a surprise day off. So, Brent, what you got?
Yeah. So I mentioned that I got off a little early on Friday for weather stuff, and then have spent the weekend, had today off, of course, for Martin Luther King Day. So shout out to Dr. King, of course. But for me, it's just been playing Legos with the kids. Seems simple, but like lately I've been just down there trying to be with them in our little basement area where we've got tons of toys. And we have a nice little Lego table and tons of Legos. And so I've been kind of building this home over basically this weekend, I guess, will be my dad moment of the week. And it's just been a lot of fun to kind of I feel like I'm teaching them some resiliency in sticking with something, because I kind of struggle sometimes where they're just constantly bouncing from one thing to the next, and frustrated sometimes that they're not utilizing their toys and things. And so anyway, they were then kind of asking me, today and yesterday, like, hey, Dad, can we go down and keep working on the Legos? And I was like, okay. So felt like I was making some headway with that. So it was super cool time just to kind of be present with them and play. And I also, before I forget, I have to shout out Bill Little, super fan that I work with. Dad moment of the week for him. He had a grandbaby within the last week here, a granddaughter.
Bill.
So, that's awesome. Congratulations, Bill. Very cool.
Yeah, I was super excited, and beautiful little girl, and he's excited to be a grandpa.
That is awesome. Yeah. Even as much crap as he gives me, I will certainly congratulate him on that. That's very cool.
We need to get him a super fan shirt. That'd be pretty funny.
We do. We talked about doing. We need to get on that.
Yeah.
So my dad moment of the week is, as we've talked about on here before, I coach basketball, varsity girls basketball, and Gracie, who is in 7th grade this year, she decided to play basketball. She hasn't played since 1st grade, so she was really worried about playing. And so I was on a bus ride up to Sioux City on Friday night, and she was having her first game. And she had texted me and said, gosh, I'm really nervous. I'm scared. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And I was trying to, via text, give her a little pump up talk. So I also asked my varsity girls, I said, hey, could you send Gracie send her a message, send her a text to, say, good luck and you're going to be great and whatever. And so we had our game, and obviously right before our game started, her game was over, and I was getting texts from her about how she felt like she let her team down, and how she was just, felt like she didn't know what she was doing, and she was just crying, and I felt horrible. And it was one of those moments, like as a dad, I was like, why am I up here? Like, I really wanted to be home with her. And with my basketball team, we had just been talking about being a teammate and what makes a great teammate. And so after the game, we had lost. I didn't play horribly, but whatever. One of my girls asked, how'd Grace do? And I kind of broke down crying a little bit with my team and said, she was texting me about letting her team down, and she hasn't played for 5 years, 6 years, and it kind of hit them a little bit too, that that means a lot to me, right? So we've talked a lot about like that mix of work and being a parent. Usually we talk about it from the angle of being a teacher, but coaching takes me away too. And this was kind of one of those moments, and I guess a cherry on top of that story was later on that night, probably a little after 10, I got a text from one of my kids, my basketball kids, just checking on me, seeing how I was. Said, I know that you were having a hard time with your daughter tonight and not being there, and you're always talking about how we should take care of each other as teammates, and I think we should take care of our coaches too. And so it was kind of a cool night that ended up being a cool night with the interaction with not only my kids, my daughters, but also my basketball kids. So
that's very cool. I think there's always different ways that we can be taken away from our families, whether we're here or there or wherever. And so it's nice to be able to bridge that work and home life a little bit, and it's good for the girls to see that too. So all right, well, we know that Dr. Watson's on his way, so we are going to go ahead and jump down, clean up some other stuff that we normally do at the end, and when he pops in, we'll hop over to him. We're pretty flexible. So Devin is kicking off 2017 with the blog post, article, or book, so take it away.
Yeah, so I'm going to share one. It kind of relates back to what we talked about with AJ Giuliani when he was on in their book launch. But this is a post from Ed Surge. Let's see, it's not from too long ago, November 15th. And it's all about design thinking in schools and why it's important, and how the company IDEO, which isn't an education company and it's a design company, how they are kind of trying to help schools figure out what that looks like and how design thinking works in schools. So I thought it was a pretty good article, pretty good post called "A Better Future is Possible," and it's all about design thinking in education. So I'll tweet that out to the hashtag, and we'll put it on the website, I'm assuming.
Fabulous.
Yeah, I gotta figure out how it's gonna work.
Me too.
I mean, probably copy and paste everything from Podbean into the thing. I don't know. That's for later tonight, and I got time because I don't have to go to work tomorrow.
That's right.
We don't need to discuss it on air, but I'm always open to suggestions. Kat, YouTube video, YouTube channel.
I'm gonna go with Seeker Stories. It is a new channel I kind of stumbled into recently because I watched the video and I was like, "Who's this by?" And the gal that used to be on Oprah a lot. I think her name is I just lost it. Dang it, Laura Ling or anyway, I forgot. She's fantastic. I apologize. I should have not had her name queued up. But anyway, so she is like kind of traveling the world looking for these stories of different people, from a snowboarder who built this like amazing kind of tiny house thing in the mountains, and he's doing he bought this acreage kind of thing, and a mom who built her own tiny home with a family of 4 after divorce. Just anything you could think of. These folks in Africa doing awesome stuff. It's super cool, and there's tons of great videos. They have it all blown out in playlists, and so there's some really cool stuff, and I've just been kind of inspired by it of late. So check out Seeker Stories. I just tweeted it to the hashtag. It's a very good YouTube channel.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to be joined by our guest, Dr. Randy Watson, who is the Education Commissioner for the great state of Kansas. This week's guest is brought to you by McPherson, Kansas Visitors Bureau. From water parks to historic museums, plan your McPherson summer vacation at mcpcity.com. Now, okay, Dr. Watson, you just walked in a tie. And I'll be honest, I changed my hoodie because my 5-month-old spit up on me. So my apologies for dressing down. Man, it's 9 o'clock at night. What are you doing in a tie?
Well, it's been a good day, and I'm just getting ready to crash and put on my hoodie. But I thought, hey, I'm coming to Dad's, and and I can't. I got to properly present, so I'm here, and no one threw up on me, so I'm good.
That's good.
Good point. Yeah. Okay. I see. I got it. That's cool. All right. Dr. Watson, introduce yourself if you would for us.
I'm Randy Watson, Commissioner of Education in Kansas, and really glad to be with you tonight. Loved your sponsor. Hey, shout out to McPherson. Love that. All over that. So I'm glad to be here with you guys and talk a little bit about education and family and anything else you want to talk about. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to have you, Randy. It's great to see you, brother. I am always super impressed with your everything you've got going on. And for those of us who might not know, what does the State Commissioner of Education in Kansas do exactly?
That's a good question, Brent, because, most people, shoot, my own family, I don't even think knows. So, you just go have sit up in the office and stare out the window and have a great day, right?
Right.
We're really unique in Kansas in that we have a state board of education that's given constitutional powers to oversee education. So it doesn't come from the legislature, it doesn't come from the executive branch. It's by the Constitution of Kansas bestowed upon 10 elected state board members. They in turn then hire a commissioner. That's unusual. Some states that person's appointed, some states that person's elected. But in our case, it's a hired position. So I oversee all of K-12 education, a little bit of pre-K, also things like standards and assessment and licensure of teachers, and generally all things that go on in schools. Now, what's interesting is that same Constitution that gives our state board really broad powers to run schools also give local boards power to run schools. So you will see us in Kansas as being maybe the most locally controlled state in the union as far as education is concerned. We don't dictate textbooks. We don't dictate curriculum. We don't dictate discipline policies. That is all left to local control, local school boards, local teachers. What we do is simply set standards. We do set assessments, and then we try to inspire and help move the bar forward for kids.
So as you talk about that whole idea of local control, can you talk a little bit about what's good about that and any challenges to having that much local control? Because I think obviously there are some places where we don't have that kind of local control. What are the benefits and challenges of a system like that?
Well, that's a really great question because it's just like at the local level. How much control does the local school board want to have over curriculum versus autonomy within the classroom? So all we're doing is to scale in this as a state. Overall, I think it's a really good thing. And it's a really good thing in a small state like Kansas, where I like to say we're 1 degree separated from each other. You go anywhere in Kansas and we all know each other, or we know someone that knows each other. And so I think it allows us to honor and value, especially teacher voice. What I see so much is across the nation and even pockets, within our state, is somewhere over the No Child Left Behind era, we took away the teacher voice to make good decisions in the classroom, and really said, you're not worth anything unless you can A, score well on a standardized test, your kids score well, and B, you're going to be evaluated by how well they do. And I think that really was dangerous. So while it's sometimes it means we're a little bit slower to change, we have to really have a moral authority to help school districts change. If you look at states that are tightly coupled and tightly controlled, I don't think you see any better results than you see in Kansas. So I think it's a nice mixture, and I don't think I wouldn't trade it for a tightly controlled state.
How long have you been commissioner in Kansas?
About a year and a half.
What are some that leads me to my next one. That's why I had to get my facts straight first. In that year and a half, what strides have you seen made with you as commissioner, and what are your priorities going forward?
Well, great question, and let me just digress before I answer directly to that question. The average tenure of a state school chief, commissioner, state superintendent, whatever that's called in any state, is less than 3 years. And much of that is because they're elected or they're appointed by a governor, and so they're kind of in that realm. I'm taking a 10-year approach to this, and I had a really good job as superintendent in McPherson. I love that community, still do. I love that job, and I left it with really the hopes that we could do something well on the state level. So I'm not looking upon. I'm just trying to, where's my next job coming from, and I'm just trying to make that. I'm really looking upon this as, can we make a difference in the lives of kids, and what it's going to take is a decade to do that. We liken our journey to when Kennedy said we're going to land a man on the moon, and we couldn't fire a space rocket into space. But we did it. 10 years later, Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. And so we're taking that approach to it. I went out before I even officially became commissioner, took some vacation time from McPherson and went out to 20 different locations in Kansas. And then right after that, went to 7 additional locations focusing on business. So 27 total. And we simply asked 3 questions of anyone who came to these open forum focus groups. And, number one, when you think of a successful young person, we use 24 years of age, but it could have been any age. When you think of a successful young person, describe that person. Tell us in great detail the skills, the attributes, the characteristics of what you would define as success in a young person. Second question we ask is, now think about what you just said. What is K-12's role, if any, in developing that person? And the third question was, what's higher ed's role, if any, in developing that person? We then took all of those focus group answers, the largest qualitative study ever done in the history of our state, gave it to Kansas State, and our researchers in Kansas State crunched the data and basically said what makes up success, what Kansans said make up success, whether it was the business leaders or the general public, were not things that you measure on a standardized test. They were things like persistence and goal setting and character. And yes, there were some academic skills in there, but 70% of the responses from the public were non-academic, and 81% of what business leaders told us. These are CEOs from Goodyear and Hallmark and Cerner and Spirit, all the way down to mom and pop shops. 81% of their responses said they're things that you do not measure on a standardized test. They then went into great detail to say, and Kansas, you're out of whack. Your education system's out of whack. You're putting way too much emphasis on a reading math test at the exclusion of other things that we think are important, and you need to rebalance these things as we go forward. So that happened in the first, 6 months before I took office, and then probably the 6 months after. And so we've just been on a mission to try to do what Kansas said we need to do in our state, and that is rebalance our educational system, make it about the total child, the whole child, make sure that assessments don't overwhelm us but yet inform instruction and have good purpose. And so out of that came the state board's vision, which was that we will lead the world in the success of each student. And the key to that is the success of each student, because we're about changing the system to focus on each child instead of the child try to mesh in with the existing system. And that's why this is going to take us a while, because we're really about meaningful change, not just about what looks good on a billboard or a postcard. And it's going to take us a while to really change 100 years of schooling that has worked really well, by the way, for many kids, and continues to work well for many kids. It's just that system we created back in the early 1900s doesn't serve every child well. That's a long answer. You guys will never ask me back. Yes, we only ask one question. He goes on for eternity answering these things. So
Makes our job easy, you know.
Yeah, see, that's what we do is we have smart people on and let them talk, and we just shut up. And then we I was just gonna say amen after you got done.
Well, but
Go
I
ahead.
do have a follow up to that though, because what I think is interesting is if that's the data you're getting back from talking to the folks who are going to be hiring kids when they're adults who are thinking about what it looks like in higher ed, and you say that the state department has created this vision even as young as that vision may be, and then districts have kind of some local control to make those things happen. Why doesn't that change happen a little fast? It would seem like you would only need, especially with extensive local control, you would just need some visionary leaders in those places to really make that a reality. But is that what you're seeing, or is there a lot more to it?
Oh, we see a great willingness to want to change on behalf of educators, students, parents. But it's hard to imagine something that no one has ever experienced. We all went in the same system called school that is primarily organized around time and academic. So,
Right.
You look at elementary school, it's organized around grades, K, 1, 2, 3, 4. Middle school and high school organized around some kind of bell schedule that at some predetermined interval, the bell rings and you go to a different academic subject. And there are pockets in charter schools and some choice schools that have varied from that. But what we're after in Kansas is that what needs to vary isn't the creation of a new school. What needs to change is the comprehensive school that we now know so that a kid's needs can be met in that school. So, our hope for the future, especially at the secondary level, that a kid can say, I want to be in an online environment. Great. At Dighton High School or Cherryville High School, you can be in an online environment the whole day. I want to be in a project-based environment the whole day. Great, you can do it. I want to be in a 7-period day where I go and I just sit and listen and take a test. Great, we can do that, because I think if you don't offer what people want, that just what we think the best latest trend would be, then you're going to upset people that want a traditional classical education, and a lot of parents still want that. And so we have to change the comprehensive high school to do that. I think what makes it difficult is today I on a little Voxer group we have with teachers in Kansas, I posed the question: if the research says that what makes teachers great is the ability to establish a deep and long-lasting relationship with the child. And that goes back to Ben Bloom's work in '85, and a lot of other people. Gallup notes that in the recent research. So my question to Kansas educators this week on our Voxer group was, then why don't we spend multiple years with the same teacher?
Right.
And I got it, or why don't we combine and have teachers K1, 2, and 3, and that group of teachers has the same group of kids over several years. And then I got, well, what if the teacher's bad? Wow. Okay, I guess if the teacher's bad, maybe we ought to do something about that. I mean, right? So, but everyone said intriguing, but what I find is it's hard to change the system and keep the change going when we want to fall back to what we've always known. So we're going to get there. And we're already seeing pockets of people really wanting to embrace that. It's just going to take a while to do an entire state. It's not going to, you know how hard it is in a district. You know how hard it is in a classroom to make that change. And we're trying to scale this statewide, and we're trying to really engage our teachers in the development of it.
Yeah. Randy, I have a great deal of respect for you on a lot of levels. And one of the things that you do really well, I think, is just the people and connecting with them, right? And so you mentioned you use Voxer with teachers in the state. And before you came on the show tonight, you were in Kansas Ed Chat on Twitter, and you pretty faithfully are a part of that. You tweeted recently that the hardest part of learning something new is not about embracing new ideas, but letting. Where do you see those examples happening in education?
Yeah, Brent, you're right. It's not the new ones. It's what we want to do is add on. We're notorious about the add-on until we just work ourselves to death. And I don't even like the mantra, let's work smarter. It really has to be abandonment. We have to abandon some things. Yeah. And we're so worried that when we do that, we're going to collapse and burn. And I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we'd ever let that happen. So we've got some schools that are really doing remarkable things. Erie High School, which is a small school in our southeast part of our state, is really doing some remarkable things. Blue Valley, which is a large school district in northeast Kansas, and their CAPS program is really world renowned for what they're doing there. But if you look at both those, and those are two extremes in terms of size, Erie is a small school and Blue Valley is a large school district, you'll find out that only about a third of those kids are taking advantage of that project-based or that meaningful learning, and most are still saying, no, I want an advanced placement class, top 50 minutes, or I want to go to band. And so that's why I say you just can't, if you look at the movie and read the book, Most Likely to Succeed, and take a look at High Tech High, it's really cool. But if you change the model that we have today in most of our comprehensive high schools and put High Tech High in every school district in our state or any state, you're not going to serve every kid. There'll be some kids not served well by that. And so I think it's just incumbent upon helping teachers understand, A, what Kansas said we should do, which is what that would be the people themselves. 2, what research validates and supports, and then model it and see it. And then my job is to try to inspire it and try to make it happen. So again, because we're extremely locally controlled, this won't be dictated from the State Department. It will come in pockets where we just hold them up and model it and say, look at these principles with an LES that I think then you can tweak and make it your own, but there'll be some things that will be common throughout the way we go about doing it. I don't know, Brent, if that answered your question at all, but
no, that's good.
I do think we have to abandon a lot of our notion of how we think of school, just how we all went to school, and how we think about that, because it limits. By just saying every 6-year-old and 7-year-old is going to be in first grade, that's a limiting factor right there. Mm-hmm. And we've done it because it helped us organize. It helped us create some organization. Now, I'm a history teacher, secondary level, and I can tell you that when I was in a small school and I taught every kid, because I taught 7 different preps, I had all those kids for 4 years. That's a deep relationship I had with all that student body in that small school. When I went to a larger school and I taught only American history to juniors, 52 minutes for 1 year, I loved them just the same. I wanted to impact them just the same, but I can tell you that my deep relationships just weren't able to be done in that structure. And so I think all too often what we hear from teachers, what they hear when we talk about redesign or reform or change, they hear, teachers, we must not be doing our job. This is not about teachers not doing their job. Teachers are our heroes. They're doing remarkable work. Our system is what's broke for 2017. And again, it works well for lots of kids. It just doesn't work for every kid, and we can't afford to throw away any kids anymore. They've got to graduate high school with high skill level, both academically and non-academically. And to do that, we're going to have to be a lot more flexible.
2 quick, I guess, follow-ups with that. One, I think that idea of nostalgia is a problem, right? The nostalgia that we've done it this way, and it worked for whatever the period of time is, and getting past that nostalgia is a problem. But I would certainly be on the side of reforming the way that school looks. I don't think it works for every kid. I'm with you. The part that I'm kind of trying to internalize a little bit, and you're challenging me a little bit to think differently, is that idea that meeting every kid where they are. And so the reason that school has worked the way it has for so long is because there was a need and school was developed in a way to meet that need. And so when you're saying that, you know, if there's a kid who or family who says, I think it's best that school is, you know, 50-minute segments and more academic in that way, that we should provide it that way. Is that really true, or does it need to change? So it wouldn't be saying necessarily that teachers are doing things wrong, but does the whole system need to progress and change together, or do you really think we need to continue offering all those different modes of potential learning?
Great question. So I'm going to answer that simply both. And here's the reason. I think we need to change. But I'm not the consumer. The consumer are the kids and the parents. And I've watched enough curriculum change over the years. When we were going to, for example, in mathematics, I remember we were all going to abandon algebra, geometry, algebra 2. We're going to go standards-based mathematics.
Yeah.
And I would tell you that, at least in our state, almost all of those experiments or those changes went back because the parents that didn't like the change were the most successful parents and the most successful kids.
Sure.
So I think as you change something, you have to give people what they want. Now, Apple's a little bit immune to that, right? They're going to come out with an iPhone 7 and not give you a headphone jack, you know, and just see what happens. And, you know, they did that on the iPad without a keyboard. Well, then you saw the third-party people pick up, right? And the cases have keyboards. I think we've got to be careful as we do the change and as we move toward the change, that we don't abandon the very people that think education should be in a very traditional way. So it's like credits. You know, people say we've got to move from credits to competencies. Amen. I agree. And competencies can be done in a variety of ways, including out in the community, right? With Boy Scouts or churches and all kinds of ways. But if you think we're going to change the credit system in the next 5 years, you're kidding yourself, because all of higher ed's based on that. Clearinghouses for athletes are based upon that. So in my opinion, what we have to do is, how do you derive a credit? Is it simply seat time and a grade, or could it be competencies that are learned in a variety of ways, and teachers put those together and still call it an Algebra 1 credit, but it was arrived at a different way? So my answer is, I think we've got to do both. I think that education isn't going to serve the way we're doing it well in the future, and I think there's a lot of examples in that. But I don't think our parents are ready for wholesale change. You know, don't you guys like? I go my hometown. The elementary school I went to is now a church. They sold it, but I sure like driving by and still seeing it and reminiscing about it. Right, my high school's still there. There's something nostalgic about the school that we all grew up in, that we went to. Even if we think that it was really bad, there's still something nostalgic about that. And I think we have to honor that nostalgia as we try to break the system. If not, what we'll have is we'll rely on charter schools and choice to create other schools. And then, you know, certain kids will go to those places, but the core of what happens will never change. So I look at Louisiana, which is one of the largest choice states we have, and yet 87% of kids are in a public school. So what changed in those public schools, right? I mean, my job is to change school for every kid and make every student successful. So I think we do that by giving choice within the comprehensive high school. And hopefully over time, we move more than a third of the kids into, you know, a project personalized learning environment. So maybe it's half, maybe, you know, in 5 years, it's 60%. But if we still have people that say, I've got to have a standard environment, then I think we have to offer that.
Interesting.
Yeah, good stuff, Randy. Hey, so one of the things that led the three of us together to start this podcast was around the idea that we're all dads in education. We grapple with a lot of the topics that we're discussing, and some of our questions are typically pointed in that direction, because as we struggle with them as educators and also as parents within education, and dealing with that, right? Like, how do we help make some change perhaps that we see needed? And your kids are grown, to my knowledge. You know, I've got little ones. Devin's are middle-aged, and Josh has got some little ones. And but for you personally as a dad, how is that intersection for you when you were, say, a superintendent or even a teacher in the past? Like, what things did you grapple with there as a parent in education, if anything?
Well, first of all, there's no important role that we have than being the dad and raising our kids. And, if you have more than one child, you quickly come to realize how different they are, and how no matter what your influence is, they still have their own individuality, and they need to experience that. I'm blessed to have a 30-year-old daughter that teaches elementary art in Great Bend, Kansas, and I have a son who's 23, and he's an animator. My son is autistic, and also was gifted. My daughter didn't get any label, and so I had to fight a little bit more. And I watched that and just I say this true of dads and moms. If you take a look at how hard it is raising kids, and how we want the best for them, and how there's really no roadmap. You do it kind of how you were parented or not parented. Just like teaching. You take, this teacher was really great, or this teacher wasn't. I'm going to adjust to that. And then you hope that you involve them and do the best that you can. I look at that and say, at the end of the day, what I want is my kids to be happy, and my kids to be successful in however they would define that. And my job is simply to help them on that journey, try to develop the skills that they will need in order to have that happen. And now having a 30-year-old, my daughter this year, she turned 30 a month ago. Dad, I'm 30. I'm an old lady. I said, welcome to the rest of your life, Melissa. That's the way this is going to go down. But I think, it hit her that, I've really got to, live up to this thing. I'm going to be 40. I'm going to be 50. I'm going to be 60. And we all face that. So I think that, as superintendent and as principal, my daughter, I was principal when Melissa was born, and I went to the superintendency when she was about 5. You filter everything that you look at through them and say, all right, if this is what their needs are, what are other kids' needs? I was just in Dighton, Kansas late last week. I'm looking at every one of those kids, and that's how I look at, when I walk into any of the schools now, I look at those kids so differently. I look at them as if, what if I were your dad? Well, what would I want for you? And what are your strengths that I see that I could draw out while I work on your weaknesses, but I don't work at them at the expense of your strengths? So, Brent, I always try to craft a sense of self-reliance in my kids, and then it certainly informs you how you look at school, and I would hope that it does, because it's a humbling experience to be a father. And I as a dad of a special needs kid, I can tell you that every single day, even today at age 23 with him, I have learned more about being a dad. I've gained more from that relationship than he's ever gained from me. I can tell you that. And it's made me a better educator, certainly made me a better human, and it certainly made me a better dad.
Awesome.
Well, that's fantastic. Dr. Watson, we appreciate your time. We got a couple more things to wrap up, but if you need to go and change into your pajama suit, you're welcome to do that. But we really do appreciate you taking time out with us tonight.
Hey guys, thanks for doing this. Thanks for putting it on. It's a great topic, and I really appreciate your sincerity in it. And it's a pleasure to be able to join you tonight. So have a great week and a great rest of the school year. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, the last thing that we need to do to wrap up. Any feedback? Usually we don't get the chance to do this, talk about the guests, but that's fantastic stuff.
Yeah,
It was really good.
I told you guys, I think that he's such a visionary leader, and we didn't mention this on the show, but he travels the state. He is all over the place, meeting with the people, on boots on the ground kind of guy who I really believe is doing great things for Kansas. So I'm glad we were able to have him on the show.
He was great.
I would
you
be
know.
willing to bet. Go ahead, Devin. Sorry.
I was gonna say I thought he was great. It's one of those things. Anytime I can walk away, and the great thing about this show is it happens just about every time we have an episode, but walk away really thinking either differently or more deeply about something. And that whole conversation about how do you meet the needs of families and kids, yeah, it really has me thinking a little bit. So yeah, he was great.
I would be willing to bet if you did one of those word cloud things, I forget what they're called now, but like when you put all the text in and analyzes and makes, the most common words bigger, I would be willing to get kids, or willing to bet that kids would be the biggest word of his entire talk. And I don't think that's very true of a lot of administrator higher ups, not people in the classroom. And I think kudos to him for keeping that vision in mind of what we want, what he wants for Kansas, and really, I think what a lot of us want.
Everybody, right? Yep, agreed.
Actually, the mic drop for this evening that I have leads very well. He did a very good job leading into mine. It relates very well. I'm sure glad he set the table for me. Yeah, I can't speak nearly as well for him. However, the thing that I am growing more and more tired of is the use of every, never, all when writing blog posts. I get so sick and tired of people saying that these are 10 things that every teacher needs. He brought up the point that not all kids function poorly in a testing environment and a lecture environment, and I completely agree. I get so sick and tired of people telling me exactly what I need, the only thing that I need. All kids need to do this. All kids need to do that. All kids need to code. They need to know how to code. They need to all be able to. No, they don't. Not all kids are the same. I'm not you. You're not me. So by all means, share what you're doing. By all means, expose kids to as much of the ideas and the content that's out there. But not all kids are made equal. Not all people are made equal. So not all kids or people need to do everything.
Well done. I like that one. That's
all
good.
right,
You should
ladies and
feel
gentlemen.
better.
Good stuff, Josh. Well done.
Well, if you go back on my Twitter account, you notice I only have one tweet in the last couple of days, and that's pretty much it. And I had to sit on that for a couple of days because there was a few expletives in there as well. So anyway, we're excited to be back. Go check us out, dadsined.com. We will be back to our regular schedule every couple of weeks. So we will see you all in 2 weeks. Thanks, Devin, Brent, and thanks to Dr. Watson for his time tonight.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys.